upstairs in my room. Okay.
You can update your profile picture now to say "Greetings from quarantine."
I thought
And that's
that was really
hilarious.
funny. That's unfortunate.
Have you already sent out your link on Facebook?
I'm working on it.
Jasmine's doing it right now.
Okay.
But you can also just go to... Oh, that's an... Wait, is Adam's head in that picture? Oh, it is. The timer goes right underneath his head. Did you RTMP it to YouTube?
Yeah, I thought so. Thought I did. Is it not showing up?
Nope, stream's not live.
Oh my gosh, do I need to redo it then?
Yes. You can leave the timer.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Culture Insanity. I hear we already have 6 to 8 listeners, so thank you for eagerly anticipating the show, and thanks for taking a break from, Tiger King and the coronavirus task force and the press conferences and whatever news outlet you consume on a regular basis. Thanks for tuning into our little show here. So we're live. We're live here from Portland, Aletheia, for episode 6 of Culture Insanity. So welcome back, everyone. We're healthy still. We're still alive. Josh has his tea, and so that's how he's been staying fit. And I have managed to not bring back COVID from work every day, because I'm still working.
Well, and we're practicing proper social distancing. So I know Adam and I probably seem close to each other, but Adam and I live together, and we live at the, I don't know what you'd call it, abbey, like monastery, rectory. I don't know what you'd call it, but we live at the Haven Ministry, so we're working 24/7 for the church. But we had to web Pastor Monty in. Yeah,
speaking of webbing Pastor Monty in, do you hear like a air conditioning or like?
It's Pastor Monty's.
Okay, so I guess forgive us for a little bit of a feedback, but it's not too bad.
Are you there, Pastor Monty?
Well, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hear you pretty good.
Okay. Cool.
All right, so. Yeah.
We're just weathering the storm, practicing social distancing.
Okay. How?
I mean, social distancing is a great thing because it provides you an excuse not to have to deal with people.
Yeah. So.
Okay. There's our first controversial statement.
Do you social distance outside of COVID-19?
I was doing social distancing when social distancing wasn't cool.
Yeah, so you're a pioneer. You're a hipster social distancer.
Absolutely.
He was doing social distancing back during the Spanish influenza, back when it was 4 feet and not 8 or 6 feet.
So welcome to our elderly to the show today.
What? Spanish influenza was 1918.
Oh, okay. Well, close enough.
All right. So, yes, welcome back to the show. Let's get into it. So, what brings us here today? Just a couple things as a springboard for discussion, and hopefully we get some good feedback and some engagement on our video comments like we did. If my dad is listening, comment on the video. Don't text me. Right. Comment on the video. I'm not looking to have a personal engagement with you. I am, but I'm not.
Producer
I am outside of this time.
Producer Jasmine, do you have a watch party going? Okay. Can you send me a link to it so I can follow that feed? Thanks.
All right. So the two things on the docket are two things that are under the same umbrella as far as I'm concerned, but it has to do with basically celebrities' contribution or not to this time we're living in now, in this quarantine time. So in the last week, a couple different things happened. So the first thing, Madonna, I think this came first. Madonna posted a video from her presumably large house. I think she was like in a bathtub with rose petals, talking about
as one does.
I frequent the bathtub with the rose petals. But she posted a video basically saying that what she appreciates about this whole time we're in and Corona is that it's the great equalizer. Let me see if I can pull up her exact quote here. She says, That's the thing about COVID-19. It doesn't care about how rich you are, how famous you are, how funny you are, how smart you are, where you live, how old you are, what amazing stories you can tell. It's the great equalizer, she says. She goes on to say, what's terrible about it is it's made us all equal in many ways. And what's wonderful about it is that it's made us all equal in many ways.
Some deep thoughts there.
And like I used to say, at the end of human nature, we're all in the same boat. And when the ship goes down, we're all going down together. So, Madonna's posting that from a presumable place of luxury. That's part of the discussion. The other thing that happened this week was this viral video, which ended up getting a ton of backlash, that Gal Gadot,
Wonder Woman, Diana Prince herself.
I'm always hesitant on the pronunciation of her last name because I've heard it said both ways, pronouncing the T and not. But she posted a video on Instagram where she's singing, and several other celebrities are singing Imagine by John Lennon in their best singing voices. So we're going to talk about that as well. So viral video of all these celebrities singing Imagine by John Lennon during a difficult time. So first of all, I guess I'll ask you guys, had you guys seen that or heard of that coming into this episode? Did you guys watch that video? First takes?
You're talking about me and...
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the article that you sent me. I knew people were doing it too, I suppose.
Like that specific video? Posted by her?
There's one that's like 25 celebrities singing it. I think it was posted by CBS News, and it has like a whole bunch, like Will Ferrell singing it.
Yeah. What about you, Pastor Monty? Had you seen that?
I saw your post, Adam. I mean, I commented on it. These individuals, don't have the faintest idea about what it is that they're emulating. John Lennon was an avowed communist, and this was his manifesto. So, when you listen to these guys sing, though, I guess you recognize that they must be very happy for recording studios, because some of them can barely carry a tune.
Okay.
Okay, so your first take is they must not know who John Lennon is or was and what this song was about.
Well, I think that they probably know, but they're caught up in the sentiment of, oh, it's such a wonderful song. But if you look at the lyrics, clearly he's espousing communism.
So what's your... Okay, thank you, Pastor Monty. What's your first take, Josh? I just want to get both of your first takes is all. I'm not trying to cut you off, Pastor Monty.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't know if it's necessarily communism. It's definitely atheism.
Although he claimed not to be an atheist.
Right, I know.
But
I know what he claimed. But the song definitely has an atheistic point of view. I think it's missing the point to well, first of all, I think it's missing the point to attack people who can't sing very well.
Yeah. The New York Times posted an article that was primarily what it was, albeit it was kind of funny.
Yeah, sure.
Well written and it's roasting, but missing the point for sure.
Sure. Yeah. But I think the song is short-sighted in what it in everything, except for its melody and its artistry. No, it's a beautiful song, like in terms of outside of its content, but no, it's always fascinated me and bugged me that this song is used in times of everything.
Yeah. They sang it. They sing it
every New Year's.
New Year's, right?
Yeah, every New Year's.
Whoever that bald guy was. Which did we ever find out who that was?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, nobody of note.
Yeah, they always sing this. This song is always coming up during hard times for some reason. Why is that a problem though?
This is Bernie Sanders' anthem.
What'd you say? Bernie Sanders.
Why is it, Pastor Monty, why is it a problem that this song always seems to surface during like a hardship or, you know, something where the collective is going through something hard?
Well, I think it's a psychological thing that people think that they, you know, that they want to be in touch with their feelings, and that they are looking forward for some type of utopia. I mean, the song definitely has a utopian aspect to it, and you know, he's basically putting this feeling romantic type of spin on it, where, you know, people can say, this is something we can hope for. And when times are difficult, people want to have some kind of hope, even if it's fake. They want some type of hope. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the difficulty is that the song is you know, snake oil pedaling. Mm-hmm. You know, like it has nothing to base hope upon, and in fact, it spends its time distracting and destroying the first 2 or 3 verses.
Yeah.
It undermines all forms of hope to the point where there's no distinction, which makes sense. I mean, John Lennon was highly influenced by Eastern religion, where everything is an illusion. So, I think it's beautiful in the sense of having mankind push their minds to a point where we are not focused on things that don't matter, right? But it's kind of like the whole, now I'm going to get it, no politics. It's kind of like that whole bill that was just passed in the stimulus package where, you know, he's putting in a bunch of things that, you know, he's trying to get a bunch of different ideas into there alongside this message of hope. And,
You're talking about Trump? Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about, what was it, the Democrats, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You said he, you're referring to an individual.
Oh, well, in that regard, I'm talking about John Lennon.
Oh, okay.
John Lennon is trying to put, he puts all of these ideas in there that basically make it impossible. And you can read it in multiple ways. Like when you, like that line, imagine all the people living for today. Well, what does that mean, living for today? Because if somebody was living to get theirs, you know, to have their, what's the, what is it's from that show, Michael Schur's show, Parks and Rec. Treat Yourself. Yeah, Treat Yourself. Yeah. Producer Jasmine, she just whispered it to me. Yeah. If everybody's living today to treat yourself, then what you're doing is you're edging out everybody else.
Yep.
So, you know, it's not a realistic hope. And so then you have to keep expanding upon it. So everybody should treat themselves as if there is no hell, no anything. But then in order to do that, they have to not have any distinctions. No countries, nothing to live for, nothing to die for, nothing to kill for, no religion. No, I mean, how do you define yourself without those things? Mm-hmm. And that's a serious question. I don't mean that as a rhetorical. I like literally. Anybody want to weigh in? Like how can you possibly define yourself without any sort of transcendent standard?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing is, Josh, as you stated earlier, from a musical standpoint, musically it's written really well. It's a catchy tune. So people, you know, they get it into their head, and then they just want to continue to focus on it, and so I think that's another aspect of it.
Yeah, it has one of my least favorite lines in it. You say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Like, people like that line a lot, but I hate it because it's a logical fallacy. I can't stand that logical fallacy that says that because more than one person agrees with me that my position is correct. I hate that.
Yeah, so these people that contributed, and I think maybe she's bearing the brunt since she posted it. But, you know, it's really all of them that contributed.
Yeah.
They're getting a kind of an insane amount of backlash over it, obviously, because their position is not the majority position. So, and that's where I'm coming from. But even like people in positions like theirs, and when I say positions, I mean the 1%, if you will, wealthy, successful people who are not dealing with this situation perhaps that the average person might be dealing with it.
Right.
For example, there's statistics that the average American, can't support an expense $400 outside of their normal budget or spending. And so when something like this happens, it puts them into a crisis, and that, a good majority of the people live paycheck to paycheck. And so here you have these people who, a lot of their situations presumably don't have to work for the rest of their lives because they've made a ton of money in their craft, and they're posting videos talking about how it's the great equalizer and haha, like that's what's funny about this whole thing. But they're posting it from their rose petal bathrooms in their mansions, and they're singing songs of hope, quote unquote, to people who are not working, who are going to go in massive debt, who are going to, all these different ways that it's affecting the average person. So their like narrative is not the main narrative. Joe Rogan posted, "This is not the time when everyone's granny is dying, you blank idiot, to sing Imagine There's No Heaven. It's such a dumb move, so out of touch. If I'm friends with her, I would have to say, listen, you're awesome, I think you're great. But this is a ridiculous idea. It's so lacking in self-awareness and so ridiculous. Grandma died choking on her own vomit, but I feel like the world's better because Gal Gadot's so pretty. There are some people who get the real self-indulgent and real self-righteous with that social media, and it's exposed a lot of celebrities for being real dorks," he says. But yeah, it's just it seems incredibly out of touch, and that's not to say, for the record, that there aren't a good amount of those people that are contributing also, like, to, fighting this kind of thing and whatnot, like, actors and musicians and athletes. I just read this morning that, like, a quarterback or something for the state he lives in. So there's an outbreak in New Orleans, I think, right now, is one of the latest updates. And so the quarterback for the Saints, him and his wife are, like, contributing $5 million toward fighting that. So, so what I'm saying is it's not to say that there aren't, a percentage of these people in these positions that are doing something meaningful, but posting this sort of video seems like a bad move, in bad taste, with a song that they are failing to realize what it is. One of the questions I have, excuse me, one of the questions I had in regards to this, using this as a sort of springboard, is the longer this whole thing goes on, this COVID-19, pandemic we're in, do you guys think this will turn the average person against celebrities or people like this? And will there be a lasting fallout on how the average person either views, treats, or indulges those people? What do you guys think? Like, say this goes on for even another couple weeks or another month, and you're continuing to see these kinds of videos from these people, or these comments made, or, that go viral, showing, their out of touchness, and, do you think it's going to turn people on against them, like, in a meaningful, lasting way?
I don't think so.
And why not?
I think that people's like rationale is different than people's lusts, basically. And celebrities, and that's funny, Joe Jesse says, if they keep saying stupid things.
Select few, yeah.
So maybe if they're ugly.
Oh, by the way, I'm now in direct competition with my brother-in-law, who happens to be Joe Jesse, about posting a vlog or a podcast. So I see you, Joe. I see you.
Is he's taking our airtime?
Yeah, no. Good for him. Oh, geez, good for him.
Yeah.
But
send us post a link to your
vlog,
and we'll share it.
Rationale and lust.
Is that what it's called?
No. You just said. You think people's
Rationale and
is
Lust
separate
by
from their
Joe
lust.
Jesse. Wait, Rationale and Lust with Joe Jesse.
Okay, come on, get back to your point.
Okay. So what I was saying was, I think people's rationale and lust is separated from each other, and they live, in a fact value split. And so, as much as they may not like what's going on, they still continue to watch. Mm-hmm. It's a train wreck.
Yeah.
All the Trump haters that are out there, they still watch.
Yeah.
They just watch to hate. Mm-hmm. And so I think maybe that's what'll happen is people will watch to hate, but I can't imagine that people will stop watching, especially if you're pretty.
Do you mean watching in terms of like paying attention to what they have to say, or do you mean watching in terms of indulging whatever they produce in the future? Like whatever.
I mean consumption, yeah. Especially if it's not scripted. Right? Because then it's like their real life and it speaks to who they are as a person, and so it's a way people like to gossip.
Yeah, that was one of the comments from like one of the backlash comments was something along those lines is when you get a real sense of who people are and how they deal with things when times are tough, and here you have these people that are posting a good sounding song in a time where it's like maybe not the best idea to be talking about. Imagine there's no heaven for people whose family members are dying. If
I'm being honest though, I'm kind of surprised by Joe Rogan, and like I like that. He's like honestly one of the first people that I've seen say that Imagine doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, he's a hard one to pin down in terms of his beliefs. I'd call him agnostic.
Yeah,
but he's all over the place a little bit too. Yeah, what do you think, Pastor Monty, in regards to the question?
I would tend to agree with Josh. I don't think that people are going to change, primarily because my reasoning is a little different than Josh's. I guess I would hold a more pessimistic view of where people are at.
As one does.
Most people are too shallow to understand the depth and complexities of the issues that they espouse. So, and this generation or the generation before mine, they've really clinged on to the live in the moment thing. So, which is one of the reasons why this song would appeal to them, because they don't think about the consequence future-wise of what it is that they're dealing with. So, everybody loves the idea of hearing somebody who they think is successful talk about whatever, even though they don't make any sense. And so I think that we'll continue to hear this nonsense, and we'll continue to just have to shake our heads. And that's why when I see a lot of this stuff, I just dismiss it. I mean, they're not worth my time except for the fact that I need to be up on what's going on so I can respond to your questions. But they're not really worth my time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. They're not really worth my time to try and be bothered by what they do or say. I thought it was fascinating, which is just kind of a side note, but I thought it was fascinating that nobody in the media responded to the outlandish claims of LeBron James in regard to how woke he is, and that he thinks he's all that.
All right, you got me. I don't know what you're referring to. I didn't see what LeBron James said about something. What did he comment on?
Well, LeBron James basically said that he will no longer tolerate the playing of the national anthem in the ball games, and that the NFL is either going to stop playing the ball game, the national anthem.
You mean the NBA?
Yeah, the NBA. Yeah, or he's gonna quit.
Is this a recent thing? Because the league's not even going on right now.
It was published in October.
October? That was a long time ago.
He's like, I am so wonderful, but the media has said nothing about, Mr. I am so, and and then he goes on to claim that, of course, he's the best thing since sliced bread, and he's the greatest player, and all that BS. And
well, maybe that's another question then, is like, or another thing to comment on, like all we have is time right now, right? Whether it be celebrities or the average person, we're all stuck in our houses. We're all stuck in our houses, and we're all like looking to consume something, and we're all pent up. And so now you have celebrities posting videos of them singing Imagine, and you have people with the time to read it, and I wonder what that will do for like the culture going forward. Like what will it expose, or what will it produce? Like, we're all just sitting here looking for something to do and a way to be productive now, and things to consume. So
is LeBron James the one with that stupid Sprite commercial?
He does have a sponsorship with Sprite
from the
Regal.
Yeah,
the Regal
it's a
commercial.
Stupid Sprite commercial where he sings an auto tune, and it's like
animated.
Okay, yeah. I just posted a link to it. I'm like,
of all the
what
ways
is
you
this?
could reference LeBron James, Josh, now you're out of touch.
Just saying.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. This Sunday, Fox channel is promoting a concert with Elton John and Beyonce.
Oh, it's like the home concert, right?
Yeah, it's the home concert.
From their home studios.
All these musicians are going to be participating from their own home studios.
What's is it in an effort to do something, or is it just
it's a benefit?
Is a benefit, like it raises money? How does it raise money? How does it raise money? Like, are you encouraged to donate or something?
You're not gonna what?
I'm not going to contribute, so I don't know.
Let's see. It's in lieu of the iHeartRadio Music Awards.
Oh.
Let's see. Teaming up with iHeartRadio for a timely initiative, a social distancing appropriate benefit concert to raise money for Feeding America and First Responders Children's Foundation. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Well, those are good causes.
Hey, Backstreet Boys will be performing.
Yeah.
They're back, all right.
But here's another aspect of what Adam was saying, and that is that we got hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, of individuals that are barely able to pay their rent to put food on the table with what's going on right now, and yet they want people to donate money to these causes. I mean, Americans are generous people, but come on.
So how do you? Okay, so this gets into an interesting question. So my question is going to be in regard to. I don't want to open up a can of worms here, but
here I go.
But here I go. How do you deal with giving to the church during times like that?
Oh, well, that's different.
Well, of course you think it's different, and so do I, but I'm wondering how you reconcile that when making such a blanket statement about things that are good works, because we're dealing with,
And by your own admission, those are good
Yeah,
charities.
In particular, we're talking about, the children of first responders and things like that, that's so what do you think what do you think?
How do you hold both positions?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so, first of all, when you deal with, children of first responders or people what that is that's a tug on an individual's heartstrings.
Okay.
So the reality of it is if you're a firefighter or you're a police officer or military, somebody who is killed in the line of duty, first of all, the children are covered under pension plans. And those children are receiving money every month from those pension plans.
Okay.
So it's not like they're destitute and they have absolutely nothing. That's not true. It's part of every police officer, fire worker, even military. They're all covered by life insurance to deal with the fact that if they die untimely in service, there's going to be a payout. And in the case of children, they're eligible for not only the coverage under the pension plan, but they're also eligible for coverage under Social Security up until the age of 21, I think it is.
And you, let me just ask a question.
They have nothing is not true.
So let me just ask a question. You know that because of your expertise in regard to taxes, right?
Yeah, my expertise, yes, that's correct.
Okay. Continue.
So the reality of it is that yes, they don't have one of their parents because of this tragedy of them losing their lives as they say paying the ultimate price. But the reality of it is they still have money and funds coming to them, and sometimes they actually do better
So
than people that.
Pastor, it feels like you might be backpedaling a little bit on a previous comment that like these are worthwhile charities. Are you backpedaling?
No, you're asking me to justify where I come from. So that's so they target the heartstrings, and they're considered to be, something that the American people are charitable people.
So okay, so what's
giving to people who have those types of needs makes people feel good. But my responsibility to tithe as a believer, my responsibility to tithe before the Lord is an obligation that I have to demonstrate my love for the Lord and the body of Christ and his primary work here on earth, which is to spread the gospel of Christ.
okay? So, and that's the distinction I would make too. Is that one is, it's like, how do you say this? It is a normative action, like tithing, giving to the church, which you, like if you are a Christian, you're a part of, you're supposed to be anyway, you're supposed to be part of a local body, and giving to the church benefits you as it benefits the local body, as it benefits you, the other believers. And this is just sort of what you're supposed to do. And when I say sort of, I mean it's a command. And it's part of your normative action as a believer. And that's different than giving to charities, which is above and beyond.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. But I think it's an important distinction that does need to be made. And that command that I'm talking about, the command to give in that way to the body, takes place in hard times and good times alike. Mm-hmm. So that should also be noted. I mean, we may look at our responsibility to give to the church as again, we're talking specifically to Christians here. But we may look at that as something that we do only in times of, almost like we're giving to a charity, only in times of excess.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we're supposed to be giving all the time.
Got our tax return back so I can finally give a little bit.
Right. Yeah. But the truth is that we're supposed to be giving all the time, as a part of our normative practice of just living, kind of like how you give money to your family. If you're a father, you're paying the bills for your children. That's giving money to your family. You could just be that father that doesn't give anything to your family because they didn't make that money. So, yeah.
What would that look like?
There have been, okay. So
what do you like? Yeah.
I have experienced people who do that. People who their wife's income is their wife's income, and or they don't even allow their wife to work. Mm-hmm. And then they will not give, and then they'll give them maybe a stipend if they beg for it, and their children have to pay for themselves. So pay their own way, That's a real thing.
Feed themselves even?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's a real thing. It's called neglect.
I was gonna say, like, other than like
in case
being
you're
an
wondering.
absent father or like a neglectful father, what does that mean?
No, there's families that are set up that way.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Wow. How did we get here?
I know that was quite the tangent.
I don't know how we got here. Back to the celebrities thing. Of all the people that spoke against it, here's a name you haven't heard in a while, and he was like saying how it's absurd that you think you can find hope outside of Christ. Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh,
He was like kind of trending for a minute. And
Mater himself.
Mater himself, yeah, of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour.
He's got a lot of wisdom. Get her done.
I
Get her
have
done.
no idea what you just said.
He said he's got all the wisdom. Get her done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he spoke against him, talking about, he harbors no ill will toward these people, but it was out of touch, and he spoke to the Marxism that's in John Lennon and that song as well. But what does our audience have to say right now? Has anyone said anything?
Nothing. They're just watching.
Just taking it in.
All 15 people just watching.
No doubt trying to digest Pastor Monty's position on the emergency services. Wait, does he like those people?
Wow, Larry the Cable Guy looks old, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it lends for another thing to be considered. At this time, there's going to be a lot of things vying for people's attention. Not like there isn't before, but
Like
now
culture insanity.
yeah, but now people are really looking for that, and I think it's a really good time for people to really look at what they've allowed themselves to consume.
Yeah, I agree.
And what they are finding their hope in, because as Larry the Cable Guy says, actually I don't know what he says, I haven't read the article, but as I assume Larry the Cable Guy is pointing out, like, there's no hope in the song Imagine. There isn't. There's no hope when you think that everything is an illusion.
He said many things, but at the end of one of his tweets, because he posted several, he says, "I'm not imagining no heaven. Jesus gives hope. Government can't give people a heart, change, or hope."
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a valid statement. And the thing is, putting your head into the sand and imagining a better world, going to your inner peace, finding your inner nirvana, it doesn't change things. It doesn't change the world that we live in. And I think that a lot of even Christians have had their world rocked by the fact that, the world wasn't as safe as they thought it was. That's, shame on you for thinking that. As Christians, shame on you for thinking that the world was safer than it actually is. And that, that we don't live in a world full of sin, and that we aren't just passing through it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is this isn't our home. So the other thing is, I think that a lot of people out there are showing their hypocrisy, and this is a time for people to actually take a look at that. Why is it, now I'm bringing in a different topic, but why is it that we're so concerned about the old people, the old and the infirm, and then we're calling for...
Careful.
What was that?
I said, careful here, careful.
Why is it that we're so concerned about the old and the infirm
Now.
right now, but we are still killing babies?
I haven't fact-checked that thing I posted,
What thing did you post?
because I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but there was one thing I saw that said if we shut down Planned Parenthood
I saw this article.
for 2 weeks, you will have saved more lives than the coronavirus has killed worldwide.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
I haven't fact-checked that statistic, so don't hold me to that or hold that whatever to that, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
Worldwide, you will have saved more lives than this pandemic, which everyone's freaking out about, has killed.
Well, I just don't. I don't really understand. Okay, let me rephrase that. I do understand why it is that people view all human life and all life as precious. But I don't understand why the same people who don't view human life as precious are freaking out now
about the old people,
and the infirm. And, you know, I think it shows hypocrisy. I think that we're in a time of real polarization, and there's an opportunity for people to see beyond and through, because everything is so stressed. When everything's so stressed, that's when you start to see people for who they really are and what they really are. And people should pay attention. How can you hold that old people and infirm people are like here in Portland, for instance? I think it was in Portland. Maybe I remember that wrong. But I was reading an article. Man, maybe it wasn't in Portland. Maybe I'm superimposing. But I was reading an article where somebody I should just find it. They had sent a letter like basically saying, don't deprioritize the disabled. You know, don't deprioritize the disabled. They can't defend themselves. And if you have to choose who gets care, I'm going to have to look at that song. Jesse just posted a song that he prefers to imagine called Shine. But if you prioritize those people who have care, who can't care for themselves, then you're discriminating, and we need to make sure to not discriminate during this time. And I mean, that's a real problem, right? I mean, you have that going on in Italy where they don't have enough, so they have to discriminate.
Yeah.
And, you know, but the question is, how do you value human life? And I know there's a whole other thing where some state was saying that abortions aren't an essential medical practice. I'll look that up too. But some state was saying that. And so, you know, I think that now is a time to really like ask those questions. Texas? Yeah, there it is. Planned Parenthood sues Texas for designating abortion non-essential.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting along that, like, it's interesting how people flip-flop depending on the circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So one of the go-to tactics in combating abortion that I've seen is, so first of all, these people that support, you know, pro-choice or whatever, they lean on the science, right?
Yeah.
Which the science is against them.
Yeah.
But that's whatever. And then they cling on to this word viable life and viable human and viable person and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And so if you push someone that is pro-choice, again, if you like push them into a corner, you present to them the scenario of an old person, or not even an old person, someone who is in a bad car wreck and now is on life support, you know? Does that mean we should just pull the plug on those people, kill the old person because they've lived a long life, pull life support because they're no longer viable? But now you have the same people who now they're jumping given new circumstances, and they say, no, support the old and infirm, but they're just flip-floppy. They're super flip-floppy in their worldview, and they're not consistent, and they have fact value splits like you mentioned earlier, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's just weird how, you know, you have a bunch of celebrities out there who are singing this song, Imagine, and they're talking about how there's no real value to anything. They don't want these distinctions, and how we all should live as one, and yet they make distinctions about, you know, old and infirm, or even fetus and viable fetus, and so on and so forth. Which, by the way, guys, fetus is just Latin for baby, but they make the distinction between a fetus and a baby. And, you know, like, there's just a lot of people like really exposing their thought process. And so when I say that, I don't necessarily think that everybody's nefarious out there, you know, or that they have just this like
evil intent.
Yeah, I don't think they're malicious, but I do think
ill-informed and
I don't think they're malicious, but I think they're malignant.
Yeah.
You know, they're infected, and we need to pay attention to what we're inputting. That's
like it's. Go ahead, Pastor.
This goes back to what I've stated before, and our society is so we're so comfortable. So this goes back, Josh. You were talking about believers should be ashamed. Yeah, they should, but really the church is suffering from complacency, and
Oh, yeah.
the reality is that we a lot of what you see in the public is that, at least here in America, we are so comfortable that many people, and I'm going to say a large percentage of individuals, have no depth in their having thought through some of these issues. So, they parrot things that they've heard, but they really haven't talked through or thought through some of these deeper issues. So, so these crises, so when a crisis comes, like what we see now with this virus, the virus crisis, what we see is individuals being forced to confront some of these things like do not resuscitate orders,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or who gets hurt, or those types of issues.
Yeah, it throws all their ethics into a tailspin. Yeah.
Exactly, yes, exactly. And a lot of people, if you watch sitcoms and you watch, you watch what's going on the television, I'm telling you, there's no depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what we're talking about now just reminds me a couple episodes back when this was first starting, like when we were, man, it actually feels like forever ago considering the developments of the coronavirus and how the world has responded to it. But just 2 episodes back, we talked about how this could potentially, and back then it was a potential, but now
Sure.
it is. This could potentially change people's habitual consumptions of
Yeah.
things and outputs. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, now, like we're talking about, now people are going to be forced to confront their where they habitually went to get advice or,
Right.
like wisdom, or, where they habitually went to get the hot take on this, and then they will then in turn mirror that same, response. But yeah, I think it will continue to confront people will be forced to confront their habitual tendencies, not just in regards to what they consume in the media, but like what they output and what they believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you're speaking about that, and Pastor Monty, you're speaking about like complacency, I think that the best place to see that is in the church. I think that you can really see how the church has scrambled, and in most cases, unless you are a large church, the church was ill-equipped to deal with this crisis in terms of contact. And
Right.
Yeah.
they don't know how to
Webcast or
how to webcast. So and that's really interesting. The church has institutionally kind of always been at the forefront of technology. We were the ones to take the printing press to the next level, for instance. We were the ones to change from scroll to codex and so on and so forth. So we've always kind of been at the forefront of technology in terms of spreading the gospel. But this one really took us by surprise, I would say. And there's just a lot of places that unless they had that forward thinking, these last few weeks have been the first time that they've had, any sort of webcast of their sermons. And they're not really sure how to interact with their congregation.
Yeah, and they fear losing their congregation because their congregation, it wasn't part of their, like, not routine, but, like, it just wasn't part of their exposure at all. Like, hey, if you miss a Sunday because you're sick, you can still tune into it this way. Like, yes, you still come every Sunday, and we obviously would prefer you to be here, but
Right.
they just weren't exposed to it. So now, and especially if you have an older church, which
Yeah.
many do, like many
Yeah.
do, what are you gonna do now? Like, these people don't know how to navigate these systems and technologies, like, because you never took the time to like prepare them in case they were, like, and it seems so obvious, like, especially if you're dealing with an old church, because inevitably they will miss more services due to ailments or whatever. Like, it just is what it is. But
well, the other aspect of that is that generation will die quickly. That's the other aspect, Yeah, technology can help them if you have people who are willing to, A, understand that technology, and B, educate on that technology. But you're really only dealing with like maybe a 10 to 15 year output for that particular generation. So what are you going to do when the next generation comes along and you don't have these services for them? Mm-hmm. It's small. And I think crisis like this really puts the church on notice. And I do wonder what the effect of that is going to be in terms of these churches that can't pivot, and that didn't pivot. I wonder if they're going to seal their fate as irrelevant. And part of the larger picture is so when I say part of the larger picture, I'm talking about in terms of like end times theology, is I really believe a faith that isn't interdependent upon the local body, and I say interdependent, I mean that. I don't mean dependent. I mean interdependent upon the local body, where people are practicing their faith internally. And I've always thought that would come simply, because of the creeping in of secular humanism. I know we're getting kind of heady now, but of the idea that self is what reigns supreme. But I kind of wonder if it's going to creep in because of something like this, where the church just in a massive way has shown itself to be irrelevant and unable to meet the needs. Mm-hmm. Like, people are going to joke about the institution. Mm-hmm. They're going to be like, organized religion, what did that do for us?
Yeah. And then Madonna will be proved right in the end.
Yes. What aspect of Madonna? That she's a material girl living in a material world?
No, the great equalizer.
No, I know.
And,
I know.
Comments, but yeah. Did we lose our audience with secular humanism?
I don't think we lost the audience with secular humanism. Yeah, it's interesting. There's just a lot of ways that this could play out. Mm-hmm. And I think that celebrities, I don't think that we're going to lose them. I do think that they might gain more status as individuals, though. Pastor Monty, I think you were talking or joking about like the generation before you having sort of a decadence. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so like I know that you're actually technically speaking about. Actually, are you talking about people born in the 1920s?
No, I'm not talking about the greatest generation. I'm talking about the generation that follows my generation.
Oh.
Millennials, Gen X,
You're talking about my generation.
Yeah.
No. It's the generation before. The generation before that has to answer for all this. Mm. It's your generation that has to answer for all this, because you guys are at the helm of the ship.
Uh-oh.
That's really true. There is that element that is there. But what I'm saying is the current generation, they have no depth.
Yeah, because they weren't taught depth. They weren't taught depth because your generation's slogan was greed.
Well, okay, and if you want to look at it from a sociological standpoint, what you're talking about is after World War II, there was the greatest generation. There was also these people coming home from war.
Oh, sure.
And those types of things. And they threw out all social norms. And in an attempt to throw out social norms, they adopted methodologies like Dr. Spock, for example, that believed that you didn't ever want to discipline a child because it would inhibit them.
Yeah.
Of course, free love and all kinds of things, and that led over into my generation as we grew up, coming into the 1960s and then into the 70s.
I think that his clocks are telling the time right now.
There's kind of a bleed over that takes place, but right now the current generation, there's no depth in how that they approach things.
Yeah, and of course, there's always a remnant. There's always a remnant of people who do approach things with depth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's Ben Shapiro and that guy that you like, Jess, the guy that goes on college campuses.
Oh, you're talking about Crowder?
Yeah, Crowder.
He's a funny one.
But there are individuals that are distinct and stand out as sharp young people. But by and large, you have these these individuals that don't really show much. And actually, Madonna comes out of my generation. And
yeah.
And I mean, people don't realize it, but she's
old.
2 years old.
She old.
Yeah, she's old.
Yeah. She's old. And when I look at what she has to say, I mean, basically, we're talking about a has-been.
Okay. Madonna can hardly be called a has-been.
Yeah, she's a has-been. She's not doing anything currently popular at all. And the only reason why she was popular was because she pulled stunts, like wearing her underwear on the outside of her clothes.
That's not true.
That's what made these kinds of things are what made her popular.
No, as much as I don't like Madonna and her music, for the record, Madonna knew how to work things, and she did it well. And she has some talent. Have you ever seen Evita?
Is that a movie?
There's a difference
Yeah.
between occasionally she pulls it out and does do some things, but basically she was the forerunner of Lady Gaga. So she was
definitely.
She was marketing. She was into marketing herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as a musician, please.
She was self-marketing very much. Like, there's a famous clip of her talking to Dick Clark saying how she wants to take over the world. She has a drive to do that. Kind of the opposite in terms, but it's interesting because she based a lot of her 80s look on this, but kind of the opposite in terms of Norma Jean. Marilyn Monroe, right? So a lot of her look is based on Marilyn Monroe, but that's the studio marketing Marilyn Monroe. She wasn't.
Yeah, your mother and I were because of this, being pent up and not being able to get out. I'm watching stuff like Nat King Cole and
Sure.
and Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra and. These guys reeked with musical talent.
Okay, you're gonna.
All right, we've digressed, and we need to close the episode out.
For the record, I just want to say Lady Gaga, who comes after, like you said, she's sort of like a spiritual successor, is oozing with talent. She has a lot of talent.
She started to. There was a period in Lady Gaga's history where she started to pull away from all of the costumes and all that type of stuff, where she was just as a pure musician.
You mean with
Tony Bennett? Yeah, the Tony Bennett era.
The Tony Bennett era.
Yes, that's correct.
Joseph Jesse brings up a point, and it's one that I wanted to bring up. So this is cool. He says, millennials, 9/11 happened when I was 18. Great Recession happened when I was 25. Now global pandemic at age 36. I think that...
So he's saying every 10 years or so? Huh?
Well, he's talking about generations there. And I think it is important to note that all of those things are generation defining. And I think that what we're going to see is that this pandemic is going to be, is going to be the 9/11, right, of this generation. And I think it's a real important, I don't think people have understood, specifically the church, I don't think the church has understood that that's what it is, that we are in the middle of a crisis that will be generation defining, and how we handle that crisis is going to determine the narrative that the next generation continues on with. So I think the church's responsibility is to up its game in this moment. In every crisis, the church has innovated when it has survived, right? The whole church has survived, but I'm talking about local churches have innovated, and that's when they've survived. So I can tell you for ABF, like, our response is going to be innovation, and we already were at the forefront of that in our local, in our local area. In fact,
we're famous.
In fact, our good friend John Schlafly he just called us famous because our on the Wikipedia page for the coronavirus pandemic, our church's picture is up of our reader board that's saying
is that on coronavirus Wikipedia page proper?
I don't know, but it's on some sort of.
Who posted that originally?
Our good friend Jacqueline. Let's see. But there's a picture. Anyway, there's a picture of our church's reader board saying, web sermons only, and stuff is live on Facebook and YouTube. So, so we're gonna try to keep innovating over here on our end, and we're gonna be pushing a mandate of contact and content. But the church itself needs the church, not just the local church, but the local churches now. They need to be doing the same. Everybody needs to be innovating, because we are in a time of crisis. And when I say that, I mean generation defining, regardless of how big the threat actually is, regardless of whether more kids were killed by abortion than the coronavirus. That's the thought process that we need to be having. And I think these celebrities, the fact that these celebrities are going out and doing what they can, and they're trying to reach the world by singing their dumb songs like Imagine, means that they are in that too. That they understand on some innate level that this is a significant, generation defining time.
Yeah. So
where's the church?
So is the church going to produce Imagines or something more meaningful?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the church going to produce that is more meaningful? Yeah.
All right. That's a good note to end on. Pastor Monty, thank you for being available. Thank you for social distancing but phoning in.
Yep.
And guys, thank you for tuning in, and just keep looking forward to the next whatever we produce through the Vigilance Radio Network. We, as Josh just ended on there, we're thinking about how we can be actively how we can be relevant. So whether that means continuing to do radio shows or podcasts consistently for however long we're here, stuck, and whatever, that's what we'll do. So be looking for what we do as a church on abfpdx.org, and be looking for what we produce here through the Vigilance Radio Network. So see you guys. Thank you.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.